Hello, all my aviation enthusiast friends. Welcome back to the airplane show. This is your pilot and your Captain Greg speaking to you from the cockpit of my A320 here in beautiful Barcelona, Spain in the morning as the sun is rising. So let's check out where we are flying today from a route that I found on FlightAware. Here's our flight today, TAP Air Portugal 1049 from Barcelona, Spain. Service to Lisbon, Portugal. Just about every day they fly it. Leaving in the morning, and we're going to be cruising at an altitude of 39,000 feet to our destination today. If you haven't already, please click the subscribe button. Please click the thumbs up. Let me know that you like the video. Leave a comment, and please share this video. Now say it with me. Let's get going, and let's get rolling. Let's put some juice in this bird. The green letters under external power, push that button for external power. Now push battery 1 and battery 2. And now let's go up on the top left. Take those three knobs, turn them up and down, straight up and down, so we can align the GPS system, the ADIRS, the Air Data Inertial Reference System. Now let's turn on our beacon lights so people know that we are starting up the plane. Let's go under signs and flip the emergency light switch to arm, and also let's activate the seatbelt sign and the non-smoking sign. Let's change the brightness. So let's turn up some of our lights for the panel and the pedestal. Let's turn the floodlights up a little bit. Let's make the overhead panel a bit brighter by turning this knob right here to the right, turn it to the right. And now let me show you the route that we are flying today and our departure. Here's the route I constructed using SimBrief, and then this is Navigraph, which I used to build the routes. As you can see, the flight takes off with a certain pattern, and believe it or not, Aerofly actually has it, so we're going to use it today. Here's the Jeppesen chart for this departure, and now let's jump in and program the FMS. First thing we need to do is push the init button. That brings you to this page here where we can enter a little bit of information. So right now I'm going to enter the flight number for today, which is TAP1049, and then I'm going to tap on the little box next to the flight number boxes there. That will enter that in. If you need to adjust the brightness of the screen on the right side of the FMS, there's a bright button and a dim button. You can just push on those and that will make everything brighter or darker on the screen there. So let's enter our airport information today. So LEBL, then dash, well, not a dash, but whatever that slash is, LPPT for Lisbon, and then push the button on the very top right for our airports. The cost index down there, just push the button next to the boxes, push it again, and that enters a cost index in. So that's already programmed in. We just need to push the button a couple times. Now we're going to enter our flight information for a cruising altitude. So 390/, minus 50, push the button on the bottom left, and now that inputs that information in. From here, push on the left of the scratch pad, there's arrows, push the left or right arrow, and that will bring us to the next screen. So here's for fuel information. So the top right, push that button twice for 0 fuel, and now push the fuel planning button, and then confirm button, and now that put all of our fuel information in. Alright, from here, let's enter our flight plan. So the F plan button, we're going to push that in. And now we're going to choose our departure on the top left next to our airport. Push that button, then push the button on the top left for departure. And now just push the button next to the airport, next to the runway you want. And now let's choose our departure. So we're going to use the up and down arrows to go up and down through the different departures that are available. We need SENI for R. So when we get to that, I'm going to push the button next to that departure. Once we choose it, we're going to push the button on the lower right, the orange Tempe insert, and that will put it into our flight plan. Now push the button on the bottom left next to our destination, LPPT. Push the button on the top right for arrival. And now after we do that, we will choose our runway. This particular runway today is ILS 03. I do like how it has the course information. It has the frequency. It has the length of the runway. So that's pretty cool. Not a lot of the airplanes in here have that, but I know the Airbus 380 does. I'm not sure about the rest of them though, but choose that, and now use the up and down arrows again to choose the arrival you want. We need EXON for A. After we choose that, push the orange button on the bottom right to insert it, and now all of our departure and arrival information is entered. So from here on out, I'm going to enter the rest of our waypoints, and then we'll review how to get rid of the discontinuity. But to enter a waypoint, just type it in and just push the discontinuity line, and that will enter the waypoint into our FMS. If you would like to watch a video on the complete tutorial for this A320 FMS, you can certainly click the link above on the right. Today's tutorial is pretty in-depth, but that video is specifically made just for entering in the information on this particular system and using it with all the different features available. So if you want to check that video out, just click on that link above. Push the clear button on the bottom of the scratch pad, and then push the button next to F-plane discontinuity. That erases it. Now your route is completely connected. Let's check our route on our map. Push the knob on the right, set it for whatever distance you would like. Push the knob on the left and turn it to the right so it says plan, and now our whole flight plan shows up. Let's push the CSTR button up on the top panel there, as you saw me do. That puts our speed and our altitude information into the map for certain waypoints. Usually it puts it in for the SIDS and the stars. If it's available for another waypoint, it will certainly put it on your screen. Now I am pushing the up and down arrows on the scratch pad to cycle through the route. And as you can see, the route is complete. Now that our route is complete, we need to go back to the scratch pad, the FMS finish filling in the blanks. So push the performance button, and now the flex to temp button. Push that button in, push it again. That enters in temperature for the engines. Push the button right above it for flaps. Push it in again. And now we need to uplink to data. So push the button on the bottom left and then the button on the bottom right to confirm it. And now, as you can see, all of our V information is inputted in. Push the next phase button. Next phase. Next phase. Next phase. We will enter this information in as we begin our descent and get closer, when we have all the information to input for the airport we are going to. But for now, that's really all you need to do to finish setting up the FMS. Now we can finish setting up the rest of the cockpit, fire up the APU, and then fire up the engines. Now let's set our barometer. So go back to the main panel, the button for Q and H, push that button in. The outer green circle will change it from hectopascals to inches of mercury. Over here we use hectopascals, so it's the 4 digits right there without the decimal point. And now rotate the inner knob and plug in the correct barometric pressure for the area. And then I'm also changing it on the co-pilot side too. Now that the barometer is set, let me finish setting up the co-pilot side. And those 2 toggle switches on the bottom for ADF and VOR, those control which heading indicator shows up on the map. So I'm leaving them on VOR 1 and 2, since we have I think 3 or 4 VORs in our plan today, in our route. So I'm leaving those on VOR for that reason. We have 3 or 4 VORs in our flight plan today, so fuck, I hate when Aerofly does this bullshit. I have it turned off in the settings, and it doesn't matter that it's off in the settings for the auto tune, they still put the shit in anyways. If you push the nav radio button, you can input ILS information into there, and VOR frequencies and ADF frequencies. So I'm going to go ahead and put the second VOR in, 113.20, and hit the top right button for VOR 2 and put that in there, and now that is set. On the center stack of buttons in front of the throttle, that controls what shows up in that lower center screen. We're going to push APU now, so when we fire up the APU in a minute, we can see exactly what is happening with it. On our message center in that upper screen there, WS off and TCAS standby, we need to turn the weather system on. So down below that PWS switch, flip that to auto. That now turns on the weather system in this plane. And then go over here to TCAS, right under the 2000, push that, and then rotate it all the way until it's done. And now that gets rid of both of those messages. Now our TCAS, our traffic system, and our weather system are now active. Let's fire up the APU now. Push the APU master switch button there. Wait a few seconds and then push the start button. And then wait. The screen will show you when the APU is active. When that is active, we will turn on the APU bleed and then disengage the external power. Alright, the APU is now available, as you can see on the lower screen. The upper screen says APU is available as well. So at this point, we need to turn on the APU bleed and turn off the external power up above. This clock here on the side, you can use that to time DME arcs that you need to do, or procedure turns. It has a chronograph, and I haven't really played with it a whole lot, but certainly push the buttons if you feel like you need to use it to time a procedure turn or a DME arc. So right now, up above, let's push APU bleed. Now that's in blue. And now let's turn off the external power button. Push all 6 fuel pump switches so they are all on, all the buttons. Now they are all on. Let's go down and turn on our nav lights since we're starting the engine. So put that upper right switch in the middle. And now let's crank up engine number 2. Take that knob right between the engine buttons and move it to the right. And now take engine number 2 and just move it forward. And now engine number 2 will fire up. On the center stack, I'm pushing the engine button so I can keep a better eye on Aerofly's programming. Engine number 2 is firing up. Let's fire up engine number 1, take the toggle and switch it up, and now engine number 1 will fire up. Engine number 1 is firing up. Now let's clean up the cockpit a little bit. So take the ignition switch and move it back into the center for normal. Now we need to turn off the APU bleed, so push the APU bleed button. And now push the APU master switch to turn that off. And now we are good to set up the rest of the takeoff stuff we need to do. So on that center screen there in blue, it says what to do. So first is auto brake. So in the middle of the two screens, it says max. Push that button. Now let's move our flaps down to 1, which we're doing there. And then spoilers we need to arm. So we need to go and arm the spoilers, which we'll do in a moment. I just want to make sure that the other two are cleared up first. And now we will go ahead and clean up the rest. So now the speed brake button, just tap on it, that arms it. Now everything is good, and now we need to push the takeoff config button in that center stack of buttons in front of the throttle. One says TO config, push that. When everything is in green and it says takeoff configuration normal, we are good to go. Those other buttons I just turned on, the terrain on ND. I always turn those on even though they do absolutely nothing in the simulator. All right, let's adjust our altitude. The outer band of green, it says 100. It says 100 or 1000. So when you have it on 100 and you turn the dial, it just goes up by 100s. And then when you have it on 1000, like I just did, it puts it on to where you can increase it by 1000 increments. Let me put the right heading in. It looks like it's heading 67. I'm just double checking because we got that little bit of a curve in the beginning. So all right, now let's tap on the heading knob and plug in the right heading, and then pull the knob out, and that will set heading mode for you. When you push it in, when you push those buttons in, it follows what's programmed in the FMC. When you pull the button out, it lets you control it yourself for all three buttons. The altitude button, the heading button, and the speed knob. Same thing with VS as well. To disengage the parking brake, tap on it and then turn it counterclockwise. That disengages it. Let's turn on our taxi lights. The nose switch, just move it to the middle. And now we're ready to get this bird on the runway. So let's taxi around to the runway. Let's set the rest of our lights for takeoff. Let's move the logo light on, move the nose to takeoff, put the strobe lights on, put the landing lights on. Here is our departure for today, ladies and gentlemen. Surprisingly, Aerofly actually has it in their system. This is a pretty straightforward takeoff. So let's push the autopilot in, push the speed knob in, and now let's set our thrusters to lever climb. So pull it back until the green box shows up that says THR climb. For some reason I can't get it. There we go. Anyways, but now we're all set. And yeah, the altitude button, you can try to push it now, but it's not going to work to do our climb yet because our flaps are still down. I'm doing that kind of on purpose to keep the speed down a bit. You're supposed to be at a certain speed during this part of the takeoff, but for some reason we are not heading in the right direction. And I believe I know why, because heading mode is not chosen and the nav is not putting us in the right direction yet, so it's all good. Now the flaps do not work with the button on the side, so I'll adjust those in a moment, but right now let's make a turn. So what I did was you turn the dial and then pull the button out for heading mode. That will activate it. Momentarily I'll return the flaps back to their starting position, but for now we're just making the turn, and the little button right there doesn't work, so we got to move the flaps up ourselves. And now our plane will start gaining speed and get up to the speed that it's supposed to. And now you can see it says climb on both sides. So that's
climb speed and climb flight angle, the angle of attack. And once we get to the next waypoint, I'll activate navigation. Right now I'm leaving it on heading mode, which is why if you look in the map, it's got dotted lines. Once we activate the LNAV feature, by pushing the heading button in, we are at our transition altitude. So the baro knob right there that I just toggled with, just tap it so it highlights and then push it in. And now we are all set until we reach 7,000 feet again during our descent. All right, we're pulling up on 10,000 feet. So now we can turn off the landing lights, the nose light. So flick the nose light switch down, flick the landing light switches all the way down. The nav and logo switch, put it back in the middle. And we're going to continue in heading mode until we make this really sharp turn. And then once we make that turn and straighten out, then we will push the heading knob in. And that will, put the LNAV feature and set it active. And then we can just sit back and relax until we get to our cruising altitude. That was a fast turn. Let's activate LNAV, push the heading knob in. Now that little dot's up there, and now we are in nav FMC mode. And now you can sit back and relax for really the rest of the flight until it's time for our descent. So I hope you're enjoying the flight so far, my friends. It's good to have you on board this A320 going from Barcelona to Lisbon, Portugal. So let's fast forward a little bit and get ready for our descent here momentarily. If you've seen my videos, or even if you haven't, I'll just say it again. I find the cruising part, while the scenery is beautiful and I love the sounds of the simulator, I find just sitting there cruising, just staring at the screen and not interacting with it, extremely boring for a whole flight. So I generally cut out the middle section because if I'm bored with it, I'm pretty sure somebody else might be bored with it. If you would like to see the whole cruise and the rest of the climb and all that, just leave a comment below and I'll happily leave it in. But for now, I try to keep these videos under an hour, and the only way to do that is to really cut out the rest of the ascent and a lot of the cruise. So anyways, thanks for stopping by. If you haven't left a like on the video yet, please do so. If you haven't left a comment yet, please do so. Please click the subscribe button and please share this video. Thank you very much. I am so sick of Aerofly's bullshit with this nav radio feature in pretty much every single airplane that I have it turned off in the settings, and it still continually programs all the frequencies for the VOR and the ILS and all that. It plugs it all in. This plane has the correct frequencies in, but the course is fucked up. I'll show you in a minute that you can't even enter the correct course. Watch. Look. Let's go down. Let's push nav radio. Now the course should be 25. Okay, it's only a couple of degrees, but let's try to type it in a couple of different ways. Okay, they already have all the other frequencies put in, which is bullshit. I like to put it in myself. So let's type in like 25025 and see what happens. 025. Oh, not allowed, you bitch. That really fires me up because it wasn't broken like this in 2021 and 2022. Really sucks, man. Really burns my ass up. Really fucks, man, it pisses me to fuck off. Alright, well, let's at least pretend to put our frequencies in for the communications. So we're going to type in, well, we'll use the inner wheel to do the last 3 digits and the outer wheel to do the first 3 digits and then that little green arrows in between the two digital numbers there, those little green arrows will flip-flop the communication frequencies. I know this does absolutely 0.0 for anything in the simulator, but I still like to pretend because it is a simulator. So I'm going to play it how I want to play it, and you going to play it how you going to play it. Alright, let's go to our approach page. So push performance. Push the next phase button. Push the next phase button again. Now we're on approach. The top left is the barometric pressures. So currently in Lisbon, it is 1029 hectopascals. So let's input that. The temperature there right now is, I believe it's 10 degrees, but I'm just going to put in 18 until I double check it. But let's put in 1 and 8. And then push the button next to temp. Now the wind and the direction of the wind speed there, it is 3 knots at 270 degrees. So we are going to enter the 270 first, then a slash, then the 3, and then we're going to push the button next to mag wind. Now we're going to enter radio on the right. Baro you can enter if you like, but that's usually used for Category 1 ILS landings or less. Radio is our decision height, and that's the decision altitude minus the runway elevation. So that gives us 100 feet in this scenario. And then landing configuration, you can choose full or configure 3. The only thing it really does is just change the VLS speed a little bit. As you can see, it's 3 knots less. Now we are all set for our approach to the touchdown zone. The little white arrow on our map there means we are nearing the top of descent. So now go to your altimeter, plug in whatever altitude you wish. I'm going to put in 3,500 feet because that is 500 feet lower than the Glidescope capture point. Alright, we are at the point where we can begin the top of our descent. Go to the altimeter knob, push it in, and now you can really just sit back and relax until about 4,000 feet, until we need to capture the Glidescope. Well, actually a little bit before 4,000 feet, because we need to arm the localizer first. But this really is the only plane that I've experienced so far from Airbus or Boeing that descends fairly correct at the right speeds, at the right flight path angle and all that. You don't really overspeed. You know, it does a really good job. So we're going to sit back. We're going to let this son of a bitch go ahead. I'm pushing these buttons for terrain. It doesn't do shit. It's just something else for me to push. But right now, we just going to let this son of a bitch glide on down. And then next time we touch buttons and knobs and shit like that, you'll hear my voice. Well, actually, let's do something first. Let's set the landing elevation. You can do it on auto if you wish. I like to do it myself. So the landing elevation here is about 430 feet. So once again, I don't really believe this has any effect in the simulator. It's just something else to mess around with. So I'm going to put in somewhere around 400. And now that the non-smoking sign is back on and the seatbelt sign is on, now we are ready. And we can sit back and chill and let this bird fly back down to about the time is catch the localizer time. And then we will catch the localizer. We'll grab that bitch. Then we're going to punch the Glidescope right in the face. And then we're going to glide this bird down to the touchdown zone. Here's what Flight Aware is showing for the arrival route for this particular flight. That's what we're going to use. And I can't believe it. Aerofly did it twice on this one, which is a big surprise. They had both the SID and the star. That's what we're using. Now let's burn this bitch, this page to the ground. And now we are right around 10,000 feet. And what we're going to do now is turn on our landing lights. So flip those switches all the way up. Let's flip that nose switch all the way up. Let's take the nav logo light and flip that thing all the way up too. And now our lights are good for our touchdown. What we are going to do now is set up a couple of things for our Glidescope and Localizer capture. Underneath the barometric pressure knob, there's an LS button. Push that, and that will, well, I'll explain in a minute. Push the one on the co-pilot side, push the LS button, and now push the Localizer button. And what that does is, the Localizer, by the way, is right under the heading knob. And what that does is it sets up our altitude indicator display to have those diamonds on the bottom and on the right to show us where we are in relation to the Localizer and the Glidescope. We are descending a little too fast. Oh, more drag just showed up. All right, so right now I'm gonna descend myself instead of the nav doing it. So let's turn to VS. I'm gonna put it down to 15 and then pull it out. Remember, push the knobs in for autopilot, like the flight management system to control it. Pull it out when you want to control it yourself. So we have more drag. I may have to pull the emergency brakes. But right now, let's set the barometric pressure knob. So push both of those in. And, oh, good. All right, well, the drag went away. Now we can put the speed brake back to where it belongs. We set the barometric pressure. That's good. And we are now descending at a better rate. And as you can see on our altitude indicator display, the ILS name, frequency, and mileage showed up on the left. And the diamond on the right is now slowly coming into the center. Right now, the capture point is below us. And as we slowly descend now, instead of descending very fast, now that we have kind of evened out our descent, we are now coming more in line with the Glidescope capture point. So we're still too far away to capture it, but the idea is to keep that that diamond on the right. The idea is to keep that as close to center as possible until you capture it. Under the VS knob, push the approach button, and then push the Autopilot 2 button. And when those two buttons are pushed, along with everything else that we have pushed so far, when we do capture the Localizer and the Glidescope, this will give us a Category 3 landing, where this plane will roll out and flare all on its own. I'm making my final turn towards the runway. And as you can see, we are very close. We are closer than we were last time I was talking. But as we level out from this turn, we should capture the localizer. The diamond for the Glidescope is coming into line also. So we may get a 2-for-1 special on here. I repeat, we may get we have, ladies and gentlemen, we have a 2-for-1. We have a 2-for-1. 2-for-1 when the Glidescope and localizer capture at exactly the same time. That, my friends, is a beautiful thing. Now, all you need to do is just set your flaps and your gears, and everything will land on its own if you so choose. This will do a full landing on its own if you so choose. Here's the ILS approach for today. As you can see, it says runway 2, but Aerofly decided it'd be better to call it runway 3. Now, I just calibrated the iPad on my belly. If y'all don't know about my belly yet, I have a belly, and I'm not scared to say I do. And what I like to do is I like to sit in my chair, put the iPad right up on my belly, pause this son of a bitch, recalibrate the iPad right on my belly, and then when I take the autopilot off, we're around 1,000 feet, the iPad doesn't shimmy, shake, swivel, swirl, move up and down, anything like that. It stays right put where it should, and everything is gravy after that. Now I'm setting the speed myself because I want to slow down a little bit quicker than what this airplane is doing. So we're going to do that. Let's put the landing gear down because we are less than 10 miles away from the airport. And we are on gravy train to the touchdown zone. We are all set. We'll continue to adjust our flaps. And then when we get to about 1,000 feet, we will disengage the autopilot and fly it in ourselves. The little red button on the yoke on our left, push that and that will disengage the autopilot.
1,000.
I like to disengage the auto throttle as well. That button is right underneath the autopilot buttons. If you do that as well, just remember to pull your throttle back. Otherwise, you will start to overspeed very quickly.
$500. 400. 300. 100 above.
Hey y'all, we looking good. We looking good for the Buttery touchdown. There's no touchdown zone here, but let's see. Is it gonna be soft? Is it gonna be buttery? Is it gonna be a touchdown? It's all three! Yes, sir! Yes, ma'am! All three. Softest, butteriness, and touchdowniness. Yes, yes, yes! Thank you very much. I do want to thank everybody for checking out this video today and taking this flight with me. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you got something out of it. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you have any ideas on what plane I should do next, or where I should fly to, or what you would like to see, please let me know in the comments down below. Check out the rest of my videos in my Aerofly FS playlist. Please leave a like, thumbs up, subscribe, and I am done grifting for this video, folks. Until next time, this is your pilot and your Captain Greg, signing off until we fly the friendly skies together again soon. Have a good rest of the day or night, or whatever time it is in your time zone. See ya!